Hi, it's good to see you. I'm Addie from Whimsy of Things, and today I'm going to finally go through all of my pens and figure out what I have. I recently did my top 5 pens of 2024, and when I was looking through my pens to pick the ones that were my favorite, I realized that I kind of am at a point where I feel really scattered. Like I don't really know what I have. I don't know what I want because I don't know what I have. And so I feel like I need to just pull all the pens out, lay them out, and see what I have. I have a wish list. I have a general wish list. I don't feel like it's very accurate. I don't know if it's filling the holes I feel like I have in my collection, or if these pens that I have on my wish list would add anything to my collection, or if there's maybe a pen that I want that I am not even realizing I want because I don't know what I have. The other purpose of laying out all my pens and seeing what I have is that I would like to sort of streamline my currently inked videos a little bit. I feel like I've got too many duplicates of pens. Like, I don't really want to ink up multiple Kavekos or multiple Wancai pens or a lot of the same nib every month. It's time for an actual inventory of what I have. And in addition to all of that, I'm just sort of a stat nerd. I like knowing how many pens I have and how many of each type of nib and how many of each color, and putting them all in Excel and sorting them by the different rows and make a spreadsheet for everything, right? I have not done this at all. I have not counted my pens. I don't know how many pens I have. I'm going into this with an idea of how many pens I think I have, but I'll have to see once I actually get them all lined up and out where I'm at. So I'm going to lay them all out and let's see what we got. All right, I'm going to start out by laying out all of the pens that I had near the end of last year. These are the pens I started with, and we'll see how ridiculous the pen collection has gotten in just the last year. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pens. I actually had another TWSBI in a teal color that I gave to my husband to use. So it was actually one more pen than this, and I could swear I had another Metropolitan in black. I don't know where that is. I don't know if it got left at work or something. I'm not really sure, because I think I had 10 pens, but 7 is what's right here. I'd given one away. So this is what I started with. So now that I have these out, I'm going to lay out all the rest of the pens and get them all in one place. So we're going to do that now. Them down here. All right, well, that's all of it, except I do have one pen that I ordered before the first of the year that hasn't come in yet. I've looked everywhere in every case that I have. That's every fountain pen I have. That's more than 10, right? Yeah, it's a lot of pens. Honestly, if you would have asked me how many pens I had, I would have guessed around 50. And I just counted and I'm at 79. So I have 29 more pens than I feel like I have in my brain, which is a lot. It's a lot more. And that also means that I got 70 pens in the last year. That is also a lot, quite a lot. So already in the mindset of really narrowing in my focus as to what I want to bring in this year. And I do know that some of these pens that were bought in groups of multiple of the same pen, there was a reason for that. But I definitely want to avoid this. This is 7 pens of the same type. This is 6 pens of the same type. And I'll kind of go over why I bought the pens that I did or why I acquired them when I break it into the categories. Category 1 of pens is going to be those pens that I want to either destash or store. Pens that are less expensive, I could potentially use for nib grinding experiments or for weird ink I'm not totally 100% trusting. So these are the pens that can go. And all of them are very inexpensive pens that aren't really worth selling except for this TWSBI right here. I believe this pen's right around $80 retail. So let me just run through why I want to get rid of these very quickly. These 4 pens are eyedropper pens that I got for free when ordering over a certain amount from Fountain Pen Revolution. I may keep the nibs to maybe play with to practice some nib grinding, but these are small nibs, so it doesn't really make a ton of sense to even do that. This is a Picasso 916 with a medium nib. The problem I have with this pen is I'm not really a fan of the color, and it is too small of a grip and it's slippery. I don't like writing with it. So that's on the chopping block. These 3 Jinhao X750 pens. Let me move stuff around a little bit. 4, actually. These 4 Jinhao X750 pens, I don't like because of the color. I don't like, it doesn't even have a nib in it right now. I don't like the finish of this. It just looks cheap to me. It's a solid pen. I hate this pink. I don't think this has a nib in it either. Yeah. I hate this pink. I really don't like this pink. And in fact, if you looked at my layout of all the pens over there, you probably would have noticed that this pen sticks out like a sore thumb. This purple is just kind of cheap looking too. This has a Fountain Pen Revolution, just regular flex in it. I'll probably pull that out and store it. And then this silver, I just don't really like how this pen looks either. This still has the Jinhao nib in it. So that's those 4. Then this Faber-Castell, this is a free pen that I got with, well, not free. It's an extra fine that I got in one of the ink flight subscription boxes. And I actually gave it to my son and he didn't really use it. And I may try to pawn it off on him again. I remember that it wrote okay, but it is an extra fine, and that's just not really my thing. And this is not a particularly fun extra fine to write with, and it's a plastic pen. Then lastly, this TWSBI Precision. It's a solid pen. I like how it looks a lot. I like the clip. I like the piston. It's a very smooth piston filler. The nib that's on here, I just changed actually. It is a broad. I had changed from a stub. And I was writing with this a lot because it was one of the few pens that had ink in it still near the end of last month. And I was trying to write all the ink out of it. It's not comfortable. The grip is too small and it's too slippery. A lot like this Picasso pen here. But to top it off, it's much heavier. I don't like writing with this. This pen is extremely uncomfortable for me to write with. When I was using it, I'm like, do I want to keep this? I mean, I spent a decent amount of money on it. It's not a beginner pen. And like I said, I think it was right around $80. It does not work with my grip. So this one I may see if somebody I know wants it. It's the only one in this group that would be even remotely worth trying to sell, especially since some of these don't even have nibs. Category 2 are any pens that I have that I need to fix. Broken pistons, filling systems that aren't working, nibs that are broken. I don't have many pens in this category, but there are a few. This one I bought broken. It is a project pen, so I already knew that this one is not operational. So I'm going to keep it and try to fix it. This is a vintage pen that I bought restored. It has a blind cap on it. It's a button filler that is not doing anything anymore. So I need to try to get that fixed or try to fix it. Then this Narwhal original, the piston is broken on. I need to sit down and figure that out. I have the other piece put away so I don't lose it. So I need to try to fix this or let it go. This is a Noodler's pen that I am going to destash. Should probably be in the other group. The broken part about this is I haven't touched this thing in a while. Converter does not screw on like the screw threads. As you can see, I just dropped this and gave up on it. The threads are stripped, basically. And so any converter that's on there ends up coming loose, even if it's screwed on like this, and you wiggle it a little bit, it comes undone. Well, that's not going to work. And I guess I could eyedropper it, but considering the Noodler's thing and the smell and all of that, I am going to I'll pull the nib and maybe try it in something else. So this is actually more of a destash than a fix. Then this Fountain Pen Revolution, this is another one that's got a broken piston on it, as you can see. So somebody made a good point in my comments not long ago that instead of messing with the piston at all, you could unscrew the nib assembly and eyedropper the pen, and that might be a solution. I don't know if it's worth actually spending a long time trying to figure out how to fix it. I do believe that I had some issues with leaking on this one, so I'm not sure if that has to do with the piston or if there's a crack in there somewhere, but I would pull the nib regardless because it's a good nib, but I'm not sure if this pen is fixable or not. And to further break this down, this one I definitely want to get fixed and use again. This one is just a project pen. This doesn't matter either way. I'm on the fence about this. It's a nice pen. It's got a broad nib. I actually changed it on a video. It's actually a double broad nib that I like. And even if I don't want to use that nib, it takes a number 6 nib unit. This is definitely not getting fixed. And this is on the fence. Category 3 is going to be pens that I want to keep, but that I'm going to be storing temporarily. They won't show up in any of my currently inked videos for a little while, or if they do, they'll be replacing out a different pen. So they're pens that I'm not ready to part with yet, but that I don't want to ink at this time. Okay, this next group, I'm going to have to split into 2 groups. I can't fit them all in this platform. There are 17 total pens in this group. These are the only 2 Jinhao X750s I want to save and hang on to. This is my favorite of all the Jinhao 750s because I like the sparkles. So this is the one I would definitely keep if I were to only keep one. I like the just plain black as well. So these 2 I'll keep. This is a Jinhao 159. It's the very big pen. It's quite large. And right now it's my only Fude nib that is not a dip pen. So that's why I'm inclined to hang on to this, though I've had issues with it drying out. In any case, I'll hang on to that. These 2 Wancai pens are perfectly fine. They both have had architect nibs put in them, and I like how they write, but I don't want to have multiple inked pens of the same type. And there's one Wancai or Wancai over there that I'm going to ink every month. So these 2 will just get stored. And that is the same thing with these 2 Kavekos. I have a Kaveco AL blue that I like a lot. These both write fine and work perfectly well, but All 4 of these pens are just pens that I already am inking another color of, and I don't really need multiples. So these 2 pens I'm keeping for sentimental purposes. This is my oldest pen that I own. Like, it is the pen that I've owned the longest, probably since the early 90s. And I don't want to get rid of it. Ugh. Sorry. I don't want to get rid of it. It just has a medium nib. I actually like how it writes a lot. I'm just really not a huge fan of these long paintbrush type pens, this body style. I have a desk caddy where I put the pens that I have inked every month. It's just this thing. There's a separate, there's a separate slot for each pen, which keeps them pretty well protected. They don't really scratch around in there, but these long pens don't fit in there well at all. I mean, they do, they don't fall out, but this one I've had forever. And honestly, I've had this one for quite a while too. It's got a 1.1 Lamy nib on it. I don't really feel like giving this up yet. So, and same with this Pilot Metropolitan, though I'm kind of tempted to ink it. Maybe later. Anyway, so these are sentimental. Actually, this Lamy is too. This one I've had for a while. It doesn't have a nib or a converter in it. It is a body and it's white. I don't know why I'm hanging on to this. We'll call it sentimental reasons for now. That could end up going. And this is a Fountain Pen Revolution Darjeeling pen. There's nothing really wrong with it. It just has a broad nib on it, I think. This one I'm not particularly attached to. This could probably go too. I'm going to make the executive decision that this actually belongs in the to Destash pile. So add another one to that list. These are all Fountain Pen Revolution pens. These are Gurus, and these are Jaipur version 1. And they all have 5.5 Ultraflex nibs on them. And the reason I have all these is that they were previously part of my permanently inked collection of pens. So I had all of these Fountain Pen Revolution Ultraflex pens inked in specific colors for my planner. I have since stopped using, even though I love how they look, but using fountain pens in my planner for tasks and appointments. And the reason is the dry time. It just got too tedious. It got too tedious to wait around for the ink to dry, especially with flex pens. I was using blotter papers and all of that was fine, but I just wanted to be able to put in my tasks as I was thinking about them much more quickly. So I switched to using friction pens because that's the other issue. I really like to be able to erase. So long story short, I'm going to keep these. I know they look filthy, but that's kind of the way they are. What I imagine that I would be using these pens for is that when I get new ink, I like to put the new ink in pens. I like to really try the ink out. So I like to have pens open in which to do that. And I would imagine that most of these on this platform, not this. Why am I keeping this? Yeah, I'm destashing this too. Anyway, these pens that I'm keeping and storing, I imagine that if I got like the ink vent calendar or something where I had a large amount of ink that I wanted to swatch and try in pens, I like to put ink in pens, and I like having flex pens. I like having architects. I like having different sizes. These are also pens that I could see destashing at some point in time too. This next category, I think I'll call my special purpose pens. These are pens I'm not likely to have in a currently inked video. They're ones that I continually keep inked with the same ink, like the pen that I use for my journal, or they're pens that I use primarily for titling that have wider nibs. They almost always have ink in them. So special purpose pens. For example, these 3 pens, well, these 2 pens, they're just Owasso pens. They have erasable ink, thermosensitive ink, like friction ink in them. And I like them quite a bit. They're retractable. They were inexpensive. I am not 100% convinced that I will keep buying ink cartridges for them once I use up the ones that I have. Maybe. I mean, I do use them quite a bit. They don't dry out. They work well. This is also an Owasso retractable pen. I just keep this by my computer to take quick notes with, but I don't use any kind of special ink in it. It just has a cartridge that came with it. So, maybe when it runs out, I'll try something else in there. For right now, it's just a computer pen. This is my Fountain Pen Revolution Jaipur version 2. This is the pen that I keep actually in my planner. It has the Pannonia Storm Cloud ink in it. It is always inked with gray ink. It goes in here on a day-to-day basis and lives there. And because it has the same ink and because it's primarily a utility type situation, that is why I call this a special purpose pen. It is not one that I play with, really. These are the two Pilot Parallel pens I have. I have a 6.0 millimeter and I have a 2.4 millimeter. And both of these are a little wide to write with. Well, this one is way wide, but even this one is a little wide to write with on a day-to-day basis. So I use these for titling or cards or fun stuff. They take a long time to use up the ink in. So I don't like necessarily including them in my currently inked, but I do use these every day. I use them for both like my morning pages date and for my journaling title. How about these? 7 Jinhao 82s. And replaced the nib in all of them with a Fountain Pen Revolution Architect. I bought them specifically to put ink from the monthly ink flight subscription that I have into so that I have the inks inked every month and I use them for a significant length of time because I find that my initial impressions of ink are very bad. I don't know. When I very first try an ink, I have found on more than one occasion that after I use an ink for a while, I really start liking it a lot. So I like Architect nibs. I know I like Architect nibs. So I use these pens. There are 7 colors that come with the ink flight. I put one in each pen. I use it for the 30 or so days until the next one comes and score them, rate them. I guess it lets me get more out of my ink flight subscription because I'm actually working with that ink for the entire month. So these are inexpensive pens. They have the nibs in them. They all write really well. They're comfortable to write with, but because they are inked with the ink flight ink, you would never really see them in a currently inked video, even though they are always inked, because that would be spoilers and I don't want to do that. And also those videos are long enough anyway. And there are 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 utility pens that I'll be keeping. The next category is a category I'm going to call questionable pens. So these pens are questionable because I either haven't used them in quite a while, or I recently got them as a gift and I haven't inked them, or I've only put Serenity Blue in them and I really haven't had a chance to really give them a good test. So these are my questionable pens. On this side, we have it's been forever since I've used them and I don't know. And on this side, we have new and I haven't put ink into them yet. So this group includes a lot of Aspines, actually. 2 Aspines. This is an Aspine V169. I remember inking this before and having a hard time figuring out the vacuum bit, but I eventually got ink in it. I don't remember much. I don't think I liked it, but I want to try it again. I'll probably put ink in this and just give it another shot. I may be interested in, if I don't like it, potentially changing the nib. I don't know if I even can, so we'll see. I'm going to give that one a shot again. This is a Jinhao 100, and I was interested in potentially changing the nib on this. I don't think it has a standard Jovo nib unit, but I'm pretty sure this is a number 6 that I could friction fit it in. However, I'm not massively attached to this pen in any way. I honestly don't remember inking it, but I must have. On a lot of these that I don't know about, I'll probably just ink them just to get a baseline. So that's that one. This is a Osprey Madison. It's cursed. It's a very cursed pen. I ordered it with an Osprey Ultraflex. I used it for approximately half a page, and then I dropped it on its tip and bent it. So I can't even give you a good idea of how I liked it. I had a spare Fountain Pen Revolution Flex nib that I put on there. I'm going to give it a shot and see what I think about it. I'm thinking this will probably get stored, but I do want to try at least 1 month of inking it. This is Asfine P20. It's a piston filler. I forgot I had this. It's a pretty sturdy pen and it's comfortable. I have a double broad Architect from Osprey in it right now. I want to see how that works. I inked it in the ink vent calendar. I inked it one day and I'm not sure if the nib was not in there right. It leaked all over. So it's possible that this pen has issues. Doesn't seem like it does, but anyway, I'm going to give it a try. So I'm not sure about that. These 3 pens were all Christmas gifts. These are just the Ferris Wheel Press Carousel pens, the very least expensive ones. They have little bitty nibs. I've heard very, very mixed reviews about these, so I'm interested to see what I'll think of them. It was very sweet. I don't feel terribly, horribly uncomfortable, but they don't feel very sturdy either. I don't know. We'll see. And then this was a Christmas gift from my husband. It is a Conklin. I believe it's an All-American. I think that's the model. It is resin and it's got a converter. And I like the cracked ice pattern on it. I think that's pretty. This is the pen that I have been referencing that's got a fine nib on it. I'm going to force myself to ink it and not change it. But this is a pen that if I end up not liking the fine on, I will change it out. Then lastly, this is a Hongdian Black Forest. It is a pen that I purchased about a week ago. I do not have any solid black pens. I like the look of the engraved pattern. It's not just lines. It is a cartridge pen. I think I got this in a medium nib, and I don't have many mediums. It's got this cool, I doubt you'll be able to see it, but it's got this really cool engraving on the nib. This was an impulse purchase. I just liked the black. I'll have to see. Anyway, I need to ink it and try it. So I'm pretty sure that these 2 pens I'll end up inking this month, and probably one of these just to see. And then potentially, this has just got the regular nib on it. I think I'll wait on, and I think I'll try this one to see if it's actually leaking. So these 4, I'm thinking I'll ink this month. But all of these I need to try and then make a decision about whether I'm keeping them or not keeping them. And then finally, the last category is the pens that I want to ink and use and probably put into a currently inked video. They are the ones that I love the most. So my favorites. These are my favorite pens. So this is getting hard now. This category is supposed to be the pens that I will ink. I like having a lot of pens inked. I am happy when I have between 20 and 25 pens inked at any one time. And that is not counting the ink flight pens. So that's another 7. It's not that I don't use them. They don't dry out. I definitely get a lot of use out of my pens. It makes sense for me to do that, but it doesn't make sense for currently inked videos because going through the ink in 25 pens makes for a long video. And if it's the same pens every single month, that's also not super exciting, right? However, I don't know how I would cut this down. I'm kind of stuck. So this is what I know. I know that I haven't had this Mag 600 for very long. That's definitely going to get inked because I'm still getting to know this pen. I love the 650, so that's going to get inked. I could make an argument. I'm really leaning towards keeping Don Quixote in this pen. So, this could almost be like a special purpose pen. So let's say that that's what it is. Put this in the special purpose section. It is the only pen that has actually got ink in it right now, aside from my gray pen. I have written them all dry. So let's just set that aside for a second. Let's say that's going to be a special purpose pen. I really like trying different inks out in flex pens, so I want a pretty healthy selection of those. So these are 2 flex pens. And then I was thinking that I wanted my 2 Jaipur version 2 Fountain Pen Revolution pens. These are number 6 Ultra Flex nibs. And I was thinking I wanted 2 number 5.5 Ultra Flex nibs. This is a 6 as well, so I could potentially store this. So let's set that to the side for now. That could be stored. And these 2 are the 5.5. I would have 6 flex pens, which makes me happy. This is a broad Benu that I love, so I would want to keep that. This is a new Visconti, new to me. I bought it used. Visconti that has a calligraphy nib on it. I have only put Serenity Blue into this so far, and I'm still playing with it, so I would like to ink that. It's a very thin stub. This is my Hungdian long knife nib. This is my Pen BBS, the calligraphy number 2 nib. These are both essentially architect nibs, as is this one. So that would be 3 architect nibs. This is also a broad, so we could put this by that. So I have 6 flex pens, 3 architect nibs, 1 very fine stub, and 2 broad. This is a double broad, I think, and then this is a broad. I wanted to bring in another stub or 2, and I believe I would like to have this Narwhal New Orleans limited edition pen inked because I've only inked it twice. It has a 1.1 stub on it. So that's a little wider than the Visconti. And then this has a 1.9 and this has a 1.1. I think I want to ink my Eco though. I need to clean it some more because I'm on the fence. I might be getting rid of this. So I want to give it a shot one more time and see if I like it or not. So I'm going to put ink in that and I'm going to store this for this month. Then these are 2 more Fountain Pen Revolution Flex pens that are both number 6 nibs. So that's the same as this black one up here. I'll go ahead and store those. I have this Lamy ABC pen. This is basically a medium. This Wancai I just used up and needs to get cleaned. This is also an architect. I think I'm going to store this as well. That brings us to this Narwhal. This is a broad. No, actually I lie. I put the zoom nib in here, so I definitely want to try this. So, all right, so I'm going to be trying this. This is a zoom nib. I have not tried that yet. I will put that into this pile. Out of room. The Pilot Falcon with the extra fine soft nib. I'm still learning if I like or not. I'm going to ink this again. That leaves me with a Monteverde People of the World. I won this in a contest. It has a broad nib in it. I think I'm going to store this for now. So that leaves these two. This was a gift. It's a Conklin Endura. It has a, what is this? I think it might be a fine. I might store this for this month though. All right, so where are we at here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then 18, 19, 20. 20 is good. These are the pens that I will ink next month. And these will get stored. This is actually special use pen, so I'll put that there. These will all get stored. This one I'm giving away. That pretty much covers all of my pens. All 79 of my pens. I'm going to put all these pens into a spreadsheet and I'm going to look at some data and come back. So if we're getting into stats, let me just give you a few stats. 79 pens, 9 of them were gifts. 7 of them I had when I first started. I bought 8 of those pens used and I won 1 of the pens. And also one of the pens was included in an ink flight box, so I didn't directly buy that pen. As far as nibs go, I have 14 Architect nibs, so that's probably enough of those. I think I've got that covered. I have 8 broad or double broad nibs. I have 2 extra fine. I have 15 fine, and a majority of those are on Jinhaos that are getting stored. I have 22 flex nibs. That's probably enough Fountain Pen Revolution pens because that's where a lot of those nibs come from. 1 Fude nib, 5 medium, 8 stub, and 1 zoom nib. I ended up with, in the categories, 14 pens to destash, 24 to ink, 4 to repair, 25 to store, and 13 utility type pens. 25 to store, that's a decent amount. I do think that maybe halfway through this year, I need to look through those and maybe cut that number down some. I think I'm being conservative right now because I don't want to just dump half of my collection, but I think that in 6 months or so, I should take a look again and see if there's any that I can get rid of. If you look at my collection, I am oversaturated on Architect nibs. As much as I love them, I don't need more. I'm oversaturated on Fountain Pen Revolution nibs, except maybe a gold nib, which I am interested in getting. And I am oversaturated on Jinhao pens in general, though you're going to see a couple show up because that's how it goes with Jinhao pens. I definitely want to reduce the, oh, this pen is $12 and it looks kind of cool. Let me give it a shot. I can always throw another nib in it later. Well, then you get the pen and you either use it and like it, but then you want to put a different nib in it. And a new nib is $80. So it's not a $10 pen anymore. It's a $90 pen. Or you get it and you use it and you're like, well, I like how this pen looks, but the nib is boring. So into the box it goes and there it sits. They're not really $10 pens. They're $10 pen bodies that need a nib. And a lot of these Architects I got were very inexpensive because I got most of them from Fountain Pen Revolution when they were on sale. And they came out to be maybe $6, $7, $8 a piece. So those pens are inexpensive, but I've kind of burned through my inexpensive options for nibs. Now I'm into nibs that are gold and obviously cost more, or only available certain places and cost more, or are only available by getting a Nibmeister to grind them for you, which I am all about supporting Nibmeisters and the work they do because I think it's amazing. But it's not $5, nor should it be. So that's a decent amount of money. I thought that I had 50 pens, around 50 pens. That was my guess. I guessed that I had around 50 pens, and now I have 79, and there's one in the mail. So technically 80. I am shocked at the number of pens that I have. I want to ask myself, how did this happen exactly? I mean, I know how it happened. I bought a lot of pens, even though all of my pen purchasing has been within a specified budget that I sent every month. I haven't gone into debt. I don't carry credit card debt. I don't owe any money because of my pen buying. I do not necessarily want to be caught up in overconsumption. So this type of buying that I did last year is not something that I want to continue into 2025. I have sort of a loose goal in my head of limiting my pen buying to one a month, which would be 12 pens. And I think that is more than reasonable. That's still kind of a lot of pens. If we're going off of my purchasing that I've done so far this year, we're in the second month of the year, and I have purchased 2 pens this year. So I'm keeping on track with that. Now, if I want to buy more than one pen at, say, a pen show or fountain pen day, that means there has to be some months in there where I do not buy any pens if I'm going to stay under 12 pens. And I think that's reasonable too. I'm as interested in getting replacement nibs for some of my pens and trying out some different nibs as I am in trying new pens. I'm interested in a Stylus Suite X-Wing Harpoon. I think I'm saying that right. Specifically a Flex Italic, because with all the Flex pens I have, none of them are an italic. I'm interested in a very wet noodle type vintage pen. I'm interested in a Diplomat Arrow. I am interested in more small maker pens, and I'm not sure if I should count this or not, but there's at least one more Pilot Parallel I'd like. I'd like the 1.9, the smaller one. The main interest I have is in unusual nibs, SIG nibs, music nibs, italic flex, a good extra fine, a journaler nib, maybe an oblique, more 14 karat nibs, especially like for my Lamy pens, a monoline nib, cursive italic. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. Much, much less pens overall. I do not want to end up with 70 extra pens this year. That is not going to happen. And another rule that I'm going to have for myself is I don't want to buy a bunch of the same kind of pen. I like my various different pens for different reasons. Even pens that I really, really like, I don't need multiples of those. Though I do sort of want another talisman. I mentioned that before. That is the state of my pen collection. I am a little bit embarrassed about it. I don't think I'm the kind of person that needs to have 80 pens right now. And if I do have 80 pens, I definitely don't need all of those to show up in one year. I don't need them to be a whole bunch of $8, $9, $10 pens that I don't use or really like. And I just don't need to add that much stuff to my life right now. I think that's good. I'm good now. Looking at my collection, what I'm curious about, looking at my collection and seeing what I have, what gaps do you guys see? If you had these pens, what would be the pen you're missing? Because I'm curious. I'm curious if I'm overlooking something that I would really like or that is something really amazing. I would love to hear what you guys think I could use in my collection. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say about that. Thank you so much for stopping by and sticking around till the end and for having patience with me while I went through this pile of pens that I have. I hope to see you again and that you have a wonderful week. Bye.